Hi there, welcome to Cosmic Soul Alignment. And today's episode dives into a story of feminine power reclaimed, pain alchemized, and truth remembered. Kerry Blazer is the sponsor of today's show, and she joins us to share the journey behind her book, My Inner Heroine, Exploring Feminine Pain, which is a journey shaped by childhood wounds, profound loss, unexpected mirrors, and a spiritual awakening that redefined everything she thought she knew about love, identity, and the universe. And from the rise of the divine feminine to the role of relational mirrors, from ancient remembrance to modern mental emotional crisis, Kerry brings a perspective that is raw, revolutionary, and deeply needed in this moment of collective shift. So, welcome to the show, Kerry.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Now, before we get started, I had asked you if you would give me a fun fact about yourself. And I have to ask you about this now because you said that you speak Chinese and
Yeah.
that your favourite travel story is about being at Mount Everest. So, will you
Yeah.
tell us how did both of those come around?
Oh, okay. Well, I went to the University of California at Santa Barbara for college, and I had to take a general education course. And the one that I could get into was the history of Zen Buddhism. So I took it, I loved it, and then I started studying Chinese and religious studies, and that was 1990. So I did that, and then I took 2 years of Chinese, and then I studied abroad in China in 92, came back to the States, came back to UCSB, graduated in 93, and then went back to China. And then at that point, Tibet was open. So I went to Tibet. and one of the things that happened is that I stayed at a Buddhist monastery at the Mount Everest base camp. Now, in Tibet in 1993, in order to get around Tibet, you had to rent a Land Cruiser. So I rented a Land Cruiser with 4 Israeli guys, a German guy, and me. And I was the only one that spoke Chinese, and the driver was Tibetan, so he spoke Tibetan and Chinese. Yes, a very interesting group, right?
It
Like,
was, yeah.
very interesting, and they all love me because I could order them boiled potatoes because all of their stomachs were upset in Tibet. So I had my protectors. I was well cared for. So we pull up to the Buddhist monastery on the Mount Everest base camp, and it's at like 17,500 feet, right? Like it's way above the
It's
tree line.
high, yeah.
The elevation's very high. So we get out of the Land Cruiser and the monk walks out and he says, "We have wood." And we thought, "How wood? You got wood up here?" Like, we were in shock because it's like 3,000, 4,000 feet above the tree line. And it's like we walked up 2 stairs and we were like all out of breath and everything. And so the monk took the German guy and me back. And the German guy, Mark, he spoke English fluently because he studied in America in high school. So we get back there, and he opens the door and he points at the wood, right? And we look in there, we're like, that's not wood, it's the yak dung. Because in Tibet, what they do is they pick up the yak dung, put it on the wall, let it dry, and when it comes off, they use it for fuel. So
All
Mark
right,
looks at the dung
interesting.
and calls it shit. It's just like he's like shit, and the monk's like shaking his head. Is like, no, wood. And I'm 23. I'm cracking up. I'm bending over like. I was on elevation high, like it was hilarious to me. And so the monk starts saying shit. And so we're like, yeah, shit, shit, shit. It's called shit. So you can imagine the next group of travelers that come up to the Mount Everest base camp, Buddhist monastery, once in a lifetime spiritual experience. And the monk walks out and says, "We have shit."
Oh, wow, there you go.
And this was early November, so we were already, everything was freezing. Like we had problems going to the bathroom because we couldn't see anything. Like
Uh-huh.
we shit show, but we made it.
Sounds like an
You know,
experience.
it
Goodness.
was, it was, we had a good time.
Yeah. And speaking Chinese, I think that's amazing. I would love to be able to speak even just a few words of Chinese. So well done you. That's amazing.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Let's talk about your book, My Inner Heroine. And that was born from a lifetime of navigating feminine pain. So can you
Yeah.
take us back to the beginning? What was happening in your life that led you to write it, and how did your inner heroine first reveal herself to you?
Come out. So, yeah, I had a traumatic childhood. Both of my parents, I mean, was on the receiving end of a lot of generational trauma. My mom was engaged 4 times before she got married in the 60s. My dad's parents got divorced in the 50s and got remarried, which, highly atypical. So they both, like my grandma on my dad's side, when my youngest uncle was in high school, he would sit in a recliner and she would bring his food to him and blow dry his hair and put on his shoes, like really codependent with my youngest uncle. So my mom was an alcoholic. My dad was a workaholic. I moved to Southern California when I was 5. We lived in Europe for a couple of years when I was young. And then when I was 6 in 1976, my parents got a divorce. And my mom alcoholic, dad workaholic. I moved into an apartment, didn't saw my dad every other weekend, but it was I was the problem. Like when I speaking, I'm very intuitive and very direct, and so that got shut down. In kindergarten, I remember I remember my whole life one memory where it's like I was playing alone with some blocks and just no one around. Like I didn't have friends my whole life. I didn't know how to start conversations. I didn't know how to have relationships. I just rejected myself like completely. And like in high school, I got a job at 14, bought my own car, even though I lived 15 minutes from the bachelor mansion and my dad had money, but my mom didn't and they fought. So, there you go. So then I went off to UCSB and got my degree and met my ex-husband. And my ex-husband's one of the Israelis
Oh,
in the truck.
Mount
Okay.
Everest.
Yeah. And we
Right.
had kids together. We got married in 95. I got my master's degree in East Asian religious studies and he got his degree in engineering. We had 3 kids, but we got divorced 10 years later. A lot of problems, a lot of arguing. And, all I knew how to do was be in my masculine lane. And so then that pushed him in his feminine lane. And then there was the arguing, right? Um, then my 40s were very difficult. A lot of migraines, a lot of medications, couldn't sleep, couldn't go in the sun. Like it was gnarly. It was really difficult. And then on my 45th birthday, my mom passed away. And that was the day my intuition told me to accept my psychic gifts and heal from my childhood traumas. Like it was, one, it was celebrating how special I am that we have my birthday together and her death day together. Our souls chose that. But also her passing away meant I'm the matriarch now in the family. My heart's in charge. I'm not an alcoholic. So then I started to heal, and that's really where my book starts.
Okay.
10 years ago, yeah.
So growing up then in a single mother household and feeling socially isolated probably shaped your early identity. How did those early wounds show up later in adulthood, and what finally made you realise that you had to face them?
Well, a lot of memories are coming back, but it's like just coming back. So memories of like potentially being raped, being like having forced abortions as a teenager, really kind of like shut down my creativity, shut down my womb. I had 3 kids, but I had 35 years of debilitating lower back pain. I didn't value my femininity. So after my second child was born in January, I went right back to work and I quickly got bacterial pneumonia and spent 2 weeks in the hospital on a ventilator, like gnarly impact that I didn't value my femininity because I just kept running myself into the ground. I remember talking to my dad once, I'm going to get a PhD and I'm going to live in China and Japan and have an Israeli husband and kids. And be 10 people. Like, how many people was I trying to be? Like, I
Mhm.
just couldn't value myself, even though I was in, master's degree and spoke Chinese and all these accomplishments. It's still like, I still had so much anxiety. And what I didn't realize is that I had all this anxiety, like a fear of men, fear of being raped, like so many fears, because I had never learned how to surf the waves of life. My
Or
parents didn't
yourself.
know, like my parents didn't know how to go into their emotional pain and come out of it. They just took it out on me and my brother. My mom was drank and my dad just went to work 80, 90 hours a week, right? And
Mhm.
so I was left home alone and things happened. And so, it was, I would say it's hard accepting how much pain and challenge I went through because I didn't know how to, like, I was never taught how to forgive, like all the right brain feminine things. I didn't know how
Mhm.
to forgive myself. I didn't know how to forgive others. Like, it was about 8 years ago. My youngest daughter, this is her art behind me. We got in an argument and I needed to apologize and I had a hard time. I couldn't apologize. And so I finally asked myself, this is after I started healing. Like, well, like, why can't I apologize? And this is what I heard is that I believe that if I apologize, that she'll leave me. And I was like, that's not logical. If I apologize, that's healthy, then she should want to stay. And it was the first time I saw that, like, when I have a wound in my subconscious, in my
Mhm.
shadow, that it's illogical. It's inverted wisdom. And when I invert it back, the right way, then, oh, that makes sense. When I apologize, then she wants to stay in the relationship. So that's what I really did not learn as a child, is that I learned to repress my pain and
Mhm.
not move through it.
Yeah.
So I repressed a lot.
I think
Repressed a lot.
most of us do because that's the way we're conditioned as children.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself first. You put other people first. You come last, and don't cry. That shows weakness. No, that's just clogging yourself up emotionally, and it affects you. Well, everything affects you physically at the end of the day, doesn't it? So you've got your physical, and we don't. All we do is we go to the doctor and get given tablets. We don't think about it as an emotional problem or a mental problem. So
Mhm.
it's amazing that you found that out yourself. That's good because a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, now, like, I'm in America, right? So my accent.
Yeah.
So in the American cancer centers, they do a lot of research on what causes cancer, and they found that 7 of the 9 causes were emotional pain,
Yeah.
people pleasing, just putting other people's first, not facing
Yeah.
your fears, repressing things, like not caring for self, not engaging in a healthy diet or exercise
Mhm.
or, mental health. And so, yeah, I mean, we're really running ourselves into the ground. I mean, modernity, in a lot of ways, the Industrial Revolution, we put money and convenience before health and well
Oh yeah,
being.
we
And
do.
this is where we're at. But luckily for us, now's the time for self healing.
Mhm.
And, some healthy boundaries are being drawn around the world. And that's what we need, are healthy boundaries with self. And our external reality is shows our internal reality and how we feel about ourselves. So we don't have any boundaries. We just give ourselves away and give and give. And then we don't have anything left. And,
Mhm.
we have challenge like we're having now. But, we're figuring out our stuff.
Yeah, and we get totally depleted, don't it? We just don't understand that really to thrive, we have to nurture ourselves first. We can
Yeah.
nurture others, yes, but we've got to start taking care for us. I'm finding that out a lot
Yeah.
lately. It's like, why didn't I
Yeah.
think about that a long time ago?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, that was my problem. And so I had to learn how to move through my emotional pain and have, like, what I call the love hierarchy, is something that came out of me through my healing work. Is, self-love has to come first. And by self-love, I mean, make time to surrender to your emotional pain, have a
Mhm.
gratitude practice, your diet or exercise, not, oh, I'm going to go lay on the beach all day long. Okay, maybe sometimes, but I hope you know what I mean about self-love is that when we fill our own cup of love first, and the overflow is what we have to give to others. Because
Mhm.
most people, including myself, I poured from what was on the inside, and then I didn't have enough for me.
Yeah.
And then I put other people first. So when I realized, I'm like, oh, the love hierarchy is self-love, spouse love, child love, family love, community love. Like, I'm putting community love before self-love. And all of our young people are encouraged to do that. Like, how many young people are on protests? Like,
Mhm.
those kids don't even know how to love themselves. How are they going to
Mhm.
solve the world's problems? So now we have them put in the community and putting themselves at risk of getting arrested and all of these
Yeah.
beliefs. And they don't even know how to love themselves. Like, they haven't even bought a house yet.
No,
You
and they're so
know,
angry. They're carrying so much anger that's just been, multiplied in the community that they're finding themselves in. Mhm.
and then we're telling them that's their job. Like, what?
I
And then
know.
wondering why they have mental health problems. Oh, they have no time to care for self, and now we're overburdening them with world problems that adults 3 times their age don't even know how to solve. Like,
Hmm.
what?
Yeah.
That doesn't make
And we're,
sense to me.
we're, we're throwing physical problems as a knock, knock, knock. Something's not right here, pay attention. And
Mm.
all we do is go and get some pharmaceutical tablet just to suppress those symptoms. Of course, everything's great now. No, it doesn't work like that. You're just putting
Yeah.
a band-aid on a knife wound. That's not going to work.
I mean, I had that problem. My only solution in my 40s before I started healing was like trazodone and Klonopin and Soma, and
Wow.
I used that to attempt suicide. I mean, that's really where my book starts. Is like I have a couple paragraphs about my mom, and then I go quickly to my suicide attempt, and then my recovery in the hospital. And that's really, I mean, I came back like Kerry 2.0. I was 4 years into healing, and I lived. I'm like, I've got to go now. And I told my oldest daughter, I said, I'm bringing healing to the whole family. We're not leaving your dad behind. It's exactly what happened. I quickly did 4 medicine journeys, which I could see that I don't love myself. And I asked my kids, I'm like, do you love yourself? Like, no. I'm like, do you feel my love? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, we messed up. So I started asking them every day. I said, what can I do today so you feel my love? And that really started like to change the dynamic between us. But
Hmm.
when things really got started is when I started attracting the men into my life, and they started mirroring my wounds back to me. And that's really when things started, heating up.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
I've put the information for your book. You'll either find the link underneath the video, or you can use the QR code. It'll take you right there, for Kerry's book. And it's a great book, by the way. I would suggest that you read that if there's any kind of pain or trauma going on in your life. It's amazing what you've written there, Kerry.
Thank
Let's
you.
chat a little bit then, because you and I talked about your connection to Mary Magdalene and
Mm.
a sense of having lived that lifetime before. So how has that remembrance shaped your understanding of feminine pain and feminine power?
Well, when I wrote my book, I had not yet accepted all the signs and synchronicities that my soul is the same soul as Mary Magdalene. So, but my book really focuses on like the emotional pain of a modern woman. Where, I was born in 1970. My parents quickly got divorced. In school, I was trained to get a college degree and provide for myself, and, sexual promiscuity and, all that. And so, and then in my book, I go into how all of that was destroyed me, and how
Hmm.
it destroys women, and
Yeah.
how my enlightenment experiences showed how when we see God as only male and we don't honor divine feminine next to divine masculine, right? Mary Magdalene,
Right.
then we have all kinds of problems. Like when we ascribe creation, which is feminine, to the masculine. My hands are all, I can't even tell. To when we put creation and orchestration in the masculine in one, then the feminine isn't valued. It's like the man's doing everything, and she's just like on the side, you
Hmm.
know. And so in accepting that my soul is the same soul as Mary Magdalene, then that kind of gave me a reason to go into the history, which I'm a religious studies scholar, right? I went east, I learned classical Chinese, but I'm a scholar nonetheless. So what really helped me make sense of myself about a year ago, before, because I accepted the signs and synchronicities this year in 2025. So in the end of 2024, like November, my intuition told me that I'm downloading Ho to Housewife Trauma Healing. And I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what it meant. I thought, oh, there's a lot of women who are sexually promiscuous, and can I help them become housewives? Like, I didn't put the pieces together, because after I started accepting all the Mary Magdalene, because I went from Jesus to does Jesus have a wife, and Google does Jesus have a wife last June. My birthday is June 25th, like direct opposite of December 25th. And I was like, oh, Mary Magdalene, right? And so so like just in reading all of the history around that, I could understand why my enlightenment experience took me back to that moment of God being divine masculine, not divine feminine, because it was the 6th century that the Pope like gave a speech, and in that speech Mary became a prostitute all of a sudden. And then in 1969 the Pope made her, because they found all these early gospels that were hidden away. They found a bunch in 1945 about early Christianity that talked about Jesus and Mary's life, because Jesus was a rabbi. Rabbis have wives and kids, and she was at the crucifixion to the resurrection. Like, she was always there. That's wife. So in kind of diving into my own pain and then having that come out, I'm like, well, this makes a lot of sense to me about why I'm focusing so much on feminine pain, because women are still saying we're not equal, and women are intuitive. And what's coming out of women is that our worldview is that creation is accredited to men, and the divine feminine has been repressed. And so, I'm here to right that wrong, so to speak. I'm here to, make the case that we're missing wisdom in the world. Wisdom is feminine. If we have a wise queen and a knowledgeable king, I mean, that's like a power couple like none other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm hoping that, now is a time of self-healing that started in 2012. And self-love creates heaven on earth. So, I'm here to share that message, but I just started sharing because all this just happened.
Yeah. Well, I hope your book is super successful, because I totally understand what you're saying and I 100% agree with it. Yes, 100%. Second coming. I know we talked about the second coming. So many people imagine that as something external, but I think you see it as a rise in the collective feminine. So how do you define that awakening, and then and what signs do you see, if any, that it's happening now?
So, okay. So in September of this year of 2025, mid-September, I started making videos about being the same soul as Mary Magdalene. And around that time, I saw a lot of prophecies that the Messiah is coming in 2025 around the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, which was September 23rd, 2025. And so that was a Tuesday. And I'm kind of looking around going, oh, is it? And then that that Wednesday, I woke up in the morning at 1 a.m. and I immediately accepted that my soul is Sophia. And who is Sophia? Sophia is divine feminine, opposite Christ, divine masculine. Sophia being wisdom, Christ being knowledge. And then within a minute, there was a thunder and lightning storm, like the only one in a few months in Ventura, California. Like, all of it just hit for 15 minutes and then it was just gone, because divine feminine, I mean, that's the weather. That's Gaia. That's, and I live on the Pacific Rim. Like, okay. A little scary, but okay. So that happened Wednesday, and then Friday in the afternoon, I started writing my 6 divine feminine self-love strategies. And I've been wanting to kind of make a shorter ebook, like a free ebook. We can link it below for you guys, about all my self-reflection techniques. How do I help people dive into their shadow? How did I do it? How do I teach it? And I use the laws of physics. I use a multidisciplinary approach. I made a video. I was super excited. The next day, I made 2 more videos on Saturday, including asking the question, has the church been successful at teaching love thy enemy? And my contention is no. So after that, I sat in my recliner and I started vibrating super high, and I went into an enlightenment experience and even started vocalizing like rapture, the rapture, the rapture. Like it just came out of me. And I was sharing my 6 divine feminine self-love strategies and everything. And so the next day I was guided to do some research, and my intuition said, look up the Sabbath between the Jewish New Year and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the Day of Forgiveness. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I looked it up. That's Shabbat Shuvah. That's the Sabbath of return. So the Sabbath is the day of return, the day of surrender. It's the feminine time, right? And remember that Jesus was crucified in front of Mary on the Sabbath, the feminine time.
Mm-hmm.
And she's wisdom, and women were being repressed, right? So like there's a lot of questions for me that came up there, a second coming, right? So I saw that. I'm like, okay, that's interesting that I did it right on the most self-reflective day in the Jewish calendar. And then I did some more research about the Messiah. And in the Bible, the second coming, they talk about it as a covenant written on our hearts that bypasses scripture. I'm like, well, heart to heart is soul to soul. I'm like, that's an enlightenment experience, because when a soul experiences enlightenment, attractor energy cells open up in the soul to influence all of mankind. So that's how you make a heart to heart or soul to soul transmission. It's an enlightenment experience. And if you're all interested, you can look up Dr. David R. Hawkins' Map of Consciousness, Power versus Force. He discusses that. And I was like, oh, so Mary Magdalene, so I'm divine feminine. And so then all these questions started to come out, my wisdom of peace plan that I have about, why, we attract what we are. So if you're attracting a lot of hate, which Jews definitely do, that shows a lot of self-hate. So then I started asking questions of the crucifixion. Did the Jews kill their Messiah? And are they, still processing that? Because the Jews participated in Jesus's crucifixion on the Sabbath, on Shabbat, in front of his pregnant wife. Like, there's just a lot of questions that came up about, collective pain and the second coming and what is the second coming. And the way I see it is that the second coming is teaching us that self-love creates heaven on earth. And there, that saying that, no one's coming to save you. Well, individually, I'm the only one that has sovereignty over my soul. Dawn's the only one that has sovereignty over her soul. So the only one that can heal Dawn is Dawn. And the only one that can heal Kerry is Kerry. So the whole idea that Jesus can come and heal us, that's not how it works from on a kind of laws of physics, because we have energy bodies perspective. I mean, in my book, I quote Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Gabor Mate, I have doctor after doctor after doctor in there about how healing works. And, the way that, early Christians taught how to create a community and how to create well-being is a lot different than what the Council of Nicaea decided in the 4th century of how to create Christianity. Because in the 1st, 2nd century, where a lot of it was a huge imperialistic movement in Europe, and they needed to organize and control people. Well, the early Christians were living in communes, loving themselves and, not abiding by a structure, understanding that they don't need an institution to access the divinity inside of their own soul.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here to share that and share the wisdom and also share that, you know, Mary Magdalene was the wisdom. Jesus is the knowledge. I mean, he was the one that could go out of the house and proselytize, to share the message, but the wisdom came from her. And so I haven't even talked to JC yet from my childhood. We have so much healing to do between us, but I think in large part is to show that the wisdom came from my soul. And I wasn't just an apostle or a follower. Like, I was a high priestess, and I knew a lot. So I think that there's a lot of reasons why the second coming is happening this way. And now there's a huge upheaval of challenge, but that's is what the feminine does. Like,
Mm-hmm.
masculines try to make the feminine nice and demure and sweet. Well, okay, yes, but also the feminine ruptures and repairs emotionally. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're the ones in charge of the spiritual awakening inside the relationship, not the men. But yet the men are the only ones that could talk at church, and the church is the bride of Christ, and the cross is the only ladder to heaven. Those are all like control, emotionally manipulative things that, you know, we needed to work through that, but it's a new day. It's a new day.
Yeah. And the body has an innate ability to heal itself given the right conditions. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that means not being suppressed, being able to voice your opinion, without fear of persecution, because I think we all carry a lot of that. Females carry a lot of persecution through the years. And when we think about it, and I talk about it because I find this absolutely fascinating. By the time you get to if you count back to your ninth set of great grandparents, we are carrying the trauma of over 2,000 lifetimes. 2,000 lifetimes. I mean, is that a surprise that we're in quite a mess right now and we're not doing anything about it, really?
Yeah, I mean, we carry 15 to 20 generations of
I know.
emotional pain in our DNA, the epigenetics. I mean, it's just like wild that we're able to even function, but our
I know, it's
souls are in
crazy.
charge. Like, wow. I mean, so I attempted suicide almost 7 years ago. And I only started recently talking about 6 months prior to that, I also attempted suicide. I took
Mm.
60 Klonopin, went upstairs, laid down. 2 hours later, didn't feel anything, got up and just kept going. I was like, oh, I guess that wasn't enough. I never
Yeah.
even felt it. So then that was my soul in charge, because how could you not feel 60 Klonopin? I mean, that's like that. That's a lot of Klonopin. That's a
Very
lot.
dangerous. Yeah.
Very dangerous. And so then when the next time when it worked, I took like 120 Klonopin, 60 trazodone, like, I mean, 60 soma, like 10 ambien. Like, I don't know how I'm alive, but I went upstairs and I just let go, and I went to sleep instantly. I just went right to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I just let go of my old self and came back Kerry 2.0, and, ready to kind of hit the ground running, so to speak. And it's amazing what our souls plan for us to go through so that we can
Mm-hmm.
move the energy the way it needs to get moved. And life gets very uncomfortable that way. And for me, it was like so hard to accept that if I want Mount Everest size wisdom, then I had to take on Mount Everest size wounds. It's not like,
Uh-huh.
oh, let me scratch my knee and now I'm going to understand the universe and be enlightened. No, 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 no.
Doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm.
No, fair is fair. That's
Yes, that
fair
is.
is friggin' fair. And then when it comes to how much wisdom and knowledge you get to get.
Well, you were meant to be here. You have a message to share, and you're now out there doing it, which is fantastic. So well done, you. You had said that your greatest opportunity for growth, they came through relationships. So what did the men in your life reflect back to you that you couldn't see alone?
Yeah, so So it was about about 6 months after I attempted suicide. So like, actually exactly 6 years ago. My intuition said, you should try hot yoga. I'm like, hot yoga, what? And then I went like, oh, I really liked it. So I went to yoga and they told me which class to go to and where to sit. And the guy sitting right behind me in my book, I call them my heroes because they mirrored my wounds back to me for healing purposes. And then they are like how I got to practice with my shamanic gifts. They were my like healing, practice guides. So the first one, Tim in the book, during our first longer conversation on December 30th, 2020, he's Jewish, speaks Hebrew, and we spoke Hebrew. He was speaking about Israel, about kibbutz, and I jumped in the conversation. We quickly started speaking Hebrew, and because I engaged my womb, because there's a vagus nerve between your womb and your throat, right? So I engaged it successfully, and my lower back pain went away like that.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy, but then that was me though. What for a while, I'm like, he do it? How did that? What? I didn't give myself credit. I didn't understand that it was finally in that moment where I changed the energy in my womb from self-hate to self-love. And now that the love was in there, I was like, oh, okay, because I finished the whole class. It never hurt. That would never happen. I talked to Tim after the class, I'm like, wow, oh my gosh. I couldn't believe it. So after that, we started talking a lot. And I'm like, he's not asking me out. No, we're flirting all the time. He stares at me, but he's not asking me out. And I was afraid of him sexually, and Andrew, like I say in the line of my book, it also includes Andrew Tate. Okay. So yes, like Andrew Tate, like the 4-time UFC world champion, Andrew Tate. So you can imagine why I was a little bit scared. So, I was sexually repressed. So my opposite would be a man who's sexually overexpressed. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this is really where I could start to see myself. And they had multiple women. I was like, what? What? I'm a pretty woman. Like I am pretty enough. But, that wasn't the thing. I attract men with a highly avoided attachment style with a likely sex addiction because I'm the opposite of that. And then we naturally trigger each other. So by the end of that year, I mean, my shamanic gifts had come out. I was giving intuitive messages. I was healing his dad. He was in perfect shape. He went from like 15 pounds overweight to like stacked, looking great. He wasn't taking any crap from any of the other women in his life anymore. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I know what I'm doing, And so that was really helpful for me. It was helpful for me to see myself. What am I capable of? And where do I need to improve? Like I didn't know how to communicate. So I attract men who don't know how to listen. And because why? I don't know how to communicate. So in that environment, we both have a lot to learn, And so then he left yoga. And the next guy was Justin Waller, Andrew Tate's best friend. And now he's 16 years younger than me. And that was the first time inside that relationship because he's so accomplished. Now, granted, he has his challenges, right? But how hard his life was. His mother is on YouTube talking crap about him, giving out her phone number so people can call her and talk more crap about her son.
Oh, goodness.
So just like, even though he's a multimillionaire and super successful, that's the kind of childhood that he came from. So, but with him, I felt like the first time that I admired a man. I was like, oh, I like this. This feels good to admire a man. Like, I didn't know what that felt like. And I was 52 years old. It's like a feminine need to admire your man. Like, I was like, it felt so amazing. And then the two men after that, talk about admire, were two decorated fire academy instructors. And I was exhausted. Like the first one, I teased him one time. I was like, when I dialed spiritual 911, like, and I prayed for help, right? A decorated fire engineer who teaches urban search and rescue showed up. because that's how, like, I was losing hair, I was exhausted, I was tired, and I also teased him. I told him one time that his soul, I mean, it was true, his soul told me to tease him that I'm better at urban search and rescue than him because I located Andrew Tate from my couch. Because I was just DMing Justin. So, we were teasing. But then I got an opportunity to learn about firefighters and the mental health crisis and everything. And again, I had opportunities to help him heal, like, just this beautiful opportunity with him. I call him Pat in the book, and he's like 6'4", looks like Superman, like perfect body. And I never went on a date with any of these guys. Like, my intuition is like, get the car, get the car, get the car. No date for you. Like, like, and so when we're sitting there, he's telling me that he has a house with an ocean view, and he built a deck, and that he double reinforced the deck. And he's like, maybe I went too far. I was like, no, my dad and my grandpa are just like that. When they build, because I told them that my grandpa, both in construction, my dad's an engineer, and I said, when they build, they have two rules. Two rules. One, they have to do it themselves. And two, it has to be perfect. So they're just like you. And my energy just immediately submitted, and his masculinity just lit up. Like, I have never, like, my head went like parallel to the ground because I just surrendered so much, and he just lit up so much. I'm like, I can do that. I can. What? But that's healthy femininity. When anytime that someone gives a compliment and the person internalizes it, they have a glow up, right?
Yeah.
If someone spreads negativity and I internalize it, I have a glow down,
Yeah.
And so it's really up to us, up to our souls, what we internalize and what we don't. So now, I don't internalize other people's negativity. And when I have a challenge, I take things over the finish line. I finish things. And this is, I guess, one piece of advice I really could give to people is that when you have a challenge in life, take the challenge over the finish line. And I'm not talking violent or anything like that. I mean, sure, if you have to protect yourself, then of course do that. But it just means end the argument. Because if you leave it open, then your soul will bring that challenge back around.
Right back to you.
It's going to keep, it's a boomerang. You just you don't finish it, you throw it out, and it's going to come back like a boomerang. And then you're going to be spending more time on that lesson when you could have, learned your lesson and moved on to your next lesson. And you're always learning a lesson. You're never like, am I done? No, there's no done. There's just, you're never baked. You can never say stick a fork in me and have it be true because you're never cooked. There's always another lesson.
Another layer coming up. Yeah, that's right.
Always is. I never get a break. I never get a break. And I'm the same soul as Mary Magdalene. And so, and if I'm not getting a break, then you guys probably aren't getting one either. Just saying.
And the only way is through, because if you don't go through it and you don't embody it, it's just going to keep coming around. Like you said, there's this boomerang, keep coming back round until you learn it, until you embody it and experience it. Yeah, I'm finding that out too.
And I think that's true with relationships. That's why relationships are so valuable. If you're attracting in similar people, like I kept attracting in men with multiple women. And finally, with a second fire academy instructor, he was married. Okay. But that was when I finally I saw in my subconscious in my shadow, that I had a wound that I'm replaceable. So that is how my soul worked out to show me that wound that I am replaceable. It's like, oh, okay. Which obviously no one is replaceable, right? But I'm Mary Magdalene's soul, right? And I took on the wounds just like everybody else. So this is one way that, Jason, he's head of global security at GoDaddy. He and I, we're people just like everybody else. We're souls just like everybody else. This is our job on the planet. And we're here as much as we can be, but of course our bodies die and then we have to come back, but we're always here. I mean, what's come through, which is fascinating, and there's no way to prove this. But a year ago, when I reached out to him for the first time in 40 years, I kept hearing Muhammad, Muhammad, Muhammad. This is before the Mary Magdalene thing. Like, he would do FBI stuff, come in as Muhammad. I'm like, huh. So the Jews crucified you, and then you come back and start Islam? That's logical. I mean, seriously, like, that's logical. Like, okay, so you guys are gonna, prioritize money over enlightenment. You guys hate yourselves that much that you participated in killing your own Messiah. So, okay, now we're gonna create this other religion that is gonna try to kill you for the next 1,500 years before the second coming comes, and then we're gonna figure it all out. But this is how our souls do it. Like, okay, we have a problem this lifetime, and you come in, you work on it a little bit. Maybe you start another problem that's a counterbalance to the original problem, and then all of these things get created so that we can see ourselves and experience ourselves and learn how to process our emotions. Because really, that's the only reason we're here as souls having a human experience. Souls communicate and express themselves via emotion and via different vibrating at different frequencies in our energy bodies. And expanding our emotional range is expanding our consciousness. Like, I seriously opened up enlightenment for everybody and telepathy. Like, I'm in and out of enlightenment all the time. And so the more I do it, the more other people will do it. And, it's like a snowball effect in a positive way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what way then? So the divine, the feminine experience, especially feminine pain, is a critical key, to our collective healing right now. Why do you believe that?
Well, I think that the feminine, people didn't understand the feminine. Like, I'm still understanding it. What does it mean to be in the feminine lane? And I'm interacting with all these top tier men. Now, just because, they can win a UFC championship, run a company, FBI, fire department, does not mean they know how to have a healthy relationship. So in my book, you see me asking them questions like, why do you abdicate the leadership responsibilities inside of your personal relationships? And they would kind of replace breadth, like multiple women, with depth, because they can't go deep because of their emotional wounds, right? So, but these are the men that so many people listen to, but this is all changing now. And so the main thing I think that is for women to embrace that we create. We are the creation lane, and no one needs to tell us what to do, how to create. Like, I talk to Jason's soul, like Jesus Christ's soul, constantly. And this is a hard boundary I still have to draw sometimes now. I mean, it's much better than it was a year ago. I'm like, you need to tell me what to do. But even like in the early Christian stories and like the Sophia stories, when like Sophia is creation, is wisdom, the story is that Sophia created Earth without permission. I'm like, I don't need permission. And Sophia, creation doesn't need permission from orchestration or execution, like the masculine lane. No, I'm an adult. I do me. I create, and then you orchestrate, or you execute, meaning you plan, or if someone needs to, get hurt or we protect, then you do that. And I think this idea that women need to be told what to do. No, we're highly intuitive. Like, a healthy woman, you leave her at home with kids and food. The house will be clean. The kids will be taken care of. They'll be schooled. They're outside. They'll be bathed. They'll be fed. They'll be put to bed. Like, it's in us to be this way. We don't need men to come in and tell us what to do like that. And I think here's the challenging point is what also a huge thing that came through in the second coming is that the Native American population in America had a soul agreement with, the white man, so to speak, to come together, especially around land management and learning from them about the balance between nature and humans. But also shamanic cultures have a lot of knowledge about the relationship between men and women. Like in my book, my I dedicate the book to a Cherokee proverb. And I didn't know this, but Cherokee Native Americans have Jewish DNA. Like what? Like,
Wow.
all these things just keeps coming up.
Uh-huh.
But this is the proverb. It says that a woman's highest calling is to connect a man to his soul so he can unite with source. And a man's highest calling is to protect a woman so she can walk the earth unharmed. Like they really understand masculine and feminine balance. Like I saw a video, it says men don't hold space for women. No, they're present. They stay present with women because women, we're the 5D, we're the spiritual connection. We are in charge of the spiritual awakening. It's the
Mm-hmm.
emotional expansion, right? Men are
Excuse
in
me.
charge of providing and protecting, and then they benefit from the spiritual awakening that we do. And that's teamwork. That's how they work together. So I think that I'm going to be pulling a lot from Native Americans, and especially when we pull this together with the second. It was so exciting because it came through like just immediate, like, okay, this is what you promised. I'm like, okay, I promised, okay, I promised, And I have resonance with the Chumash Native American Divine Feminine story where I live here in Ventura, California. And when they said that she would return in 2021, I'm like, oh, well, my voice and my womb returned in 2021 and my shamanic gifts came out. And what's fascinating is that the Chumash had a divine feminine story that she would come back in 2021. And there's one prophecy for Mary Magdalene to return. And when is it? 2021. And that's the year I started hearing that I'm on the Jesus Council. I'm on a mission from God, like the Blues Brothers. See, like I went to high school in the 80s. So Jason was the, student body president, and he would organize toga parties. So I have a picture of me in toga and then the yearbook of him and his toga, like that was from the same day. And so then I was like, I know, like, his soul's teasing me because that was, a big deal when we were in high school. Well, it's got to be him. How could it not be him? So, yeah.
There you go. Oh my God. Well, we're all out of time, Kerry. That just flew by, didn't it? That was an amazing conversation and some fantastic information that you've given us. So thank you for being an incredible guest and for, sharing your powerful journey with us today. And thanks everyone for watching. If you'd like to go deeper into Kerry's story, you'll see that her book, My Inner Heroine, is available. The link is in the description, or you can simply scan the QR code that was on your screen. So thank you so much for joining us. I will see you in the next episode of Cosmic Soul Alignment. Thank you, Kerry. Lots of love to you.
Thank you. Bye.